Start.
I'll start now. And boom, and we're live. And well, welcome to another episode of Life is People. And this is a continuation from a conversation we had, well, just over a few weeks ago. And it was one of the many conversations that I left with, and I had so many questions going around my head. Now, we were just speaking before we went live about one of the topics, and about going over that, I just wanted to give people a brief overview before I let you go and hear your insights on it. And it was just on the subject of just general male suicide and how it affects particularly. And I was reading some stats just the other week about how many people in the military in your part of the world are committing suicide on a daily basis. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it, because I know it's something that we didn't really touch upon in the last conversation, that you have a great passion and a great interest in that area of military life and how that's dealing with. So I wanted to know really with your thoughts on what we discussed last time and how you're dealing with the disconnect. How does that actually influence on what you're doing and your insights into what you're doing with the military?
Well, I really focus with the military. I try and work with, again, the families. So I deal with a lot of military personnel that are honestly dealing with PTSD. Once they come home, it's a total different ball game when you come home from the military. So when I deal with the actual military personnel, I really try and reach out to them and their families, because that's a big deal when they have to address how to go back and engage with the family.
So that's okay. Let's start with step one then. No human being who unless he's been there, can ever imagine what it's like to go out onto for want of a better word, the killing fields and what that. So none of us have got a real true expression of our lives, but these people are coming back. I mean, whether they're male or female, and you just said then there's that disconnect between the family. Well, what's the first step you would do? So if someone comes into you and they're brave enough in some sense to walk into you and say, hey, look, I feel there's an issue and I've got disconnect, and I was obviously, you can understand why I've got a disconnect. What would be your first bit of advice to that human being?
Well, one of the things that I was focusing on with them is how long this has been going on and what really traumatic experience they have had. So I need to see how long they've been without having the traumatic, since they've been exposed to the traumatic experience, and then we'll take it from there. So again, one of the things we want to know is if they're on medication, if they have tried medication, self-medication, because a lot of the men and women, they like to do self-medication opposed to actually going into an office and seeing a doctor.
So yeah, I mean, so the person, once you sort of you found out about that, I mean, I speak upon it, but I mean, do you introduce at any point, and again, how many steps down the process is the idea or the concept of something like CBT introduced? Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Oh, well, you say it one more time for me. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, I mean, do you? I'm trying to say, do you concentrate with your patients, and is it raised at all in any kind of conversations about something like CBT, which is cognitive, behavioral therapy and stuff, or is that left to later sessions, or is that introduced quite early?
Well, we're introduced to quite early because we also want to try and assess for any traumatic brain injuries. So a lot of things, so a lot of times people confuse post-traumatic stress disorder with traumatic brain injuries. You got to think about when you're talking about military, they being over there in the battlefield and talking about PTSD. A lot of times they get exposed to bombs and IUDs, all them things, and they have slight concussions, or they have concussions, period, mild, major, and they shake it off. They just try and continue to go on. They really can't go to the medic at that point in time. And then they carry on throughout their mission until they come home. And now we're really dealing with actual traumatic brain injury and not really post-traumatic stress disorder. So we have to look at and see, there's a lot of things that we try and assess in that initial visit to see how traumatic this experience really was and what really happened.
No, I mean, again, you put a very interesting fork in the path here, because obviously you quite rightly alluded. There's obviously the physical and what would be deemed a better word, the mental. But for those ones who are suffering mental, actual physical brain trauma and stuff like this, I mean, again, what's the latest research or your latest understanding about what can be done for them? Because again, I'm sure most people have seen films like, what's gone on with American football and that whole debate around concussion and stuff like this. I mean, what's the latest sort of insights and understandings from where you are about, what you recommend to someone who's maybe actually got some head trauma? I mean, what sort of hope is there for these people in 2016?
Well, the whole focus is really to seek help, and that's one of the major things that people who've been to the military really don't try and do. One of the stipulations that people hear all the time is that if you go and trying to seek help, assistance, then you're a weak person, and that's one of the things that they really pride themselves on being is strong. So when they hear that when they feel like they might have issues or they having issues at the home, they also have to deal with the stereotypes of, what is this going to say about me because I have been this strong person. So one of the things we really try and encourage them is really to try and seek resources, find resources, and use the resources that's really out there that's available.
Yes, and I mean, again, this must be an interesting kind of a path to navigate down, because again, one of the reflections, and again, I understand it's all come from people's experiences, but I've heard many times and I've read many accounts of particularly ex-military, and I was saying to you before we went live about the Vietnam and previous wars to that they were sent back into the normal community, and then they were just basically almost experimented as human guinea pigs with these drugs, and they were given electric shock therapy, and so I can understand why someone maybe come back and they think, I've just fought for my country, and like you said, it's being in the military itself, hey, you've got to be strong, you can't show that weakness. So you've already got that mindset going on, and then you may come back and hey, they may be just a bit wise to be like, hey, do you know what, I don't know if I want to go into that whole just being deemed and then given an injection and a pill, and I can see that the nightmare. And they may have seen parents who have been like that, parents who went through the Vietnam experience, and they've seen their dads and their uncles like that, and they think, hey, so what do you do with those type of people?
Right. Well, again, you're trying to reach out to their family because again, they're coming back and they're coming back to somebody. They're not just coming back to themselves. So they're and you got to think about it too. They've been gone. So by them being gone for so long, what we have is their families have gotten accustomed and used to them not being around and taking care of civilian things on their own. So it's like it's a reintroduction for everybody on how to honestly live together and survive together. A lot of times the people that have been in the military, they come back with such a strong sense of security and safety, and the civilian family is just really not used to it. So we got to look at the situation as a whole, and just not the person that's dealing with the disorder, but honestly the support system as well.
Yeah, well, I think you're tapping into something, and I'm really fascinated about the whole area what you spoke upon, because it's like everything else, everything that's got a yin and a yang, and like you say, as much as we've concentrated in this conversation so far on the actual people who have come back from the killing fields, you equally the whole side. I can imagine there's parents, and I hate whatever side they may feel, but no one's what I love about what you're doing is you're actually trying to explore the whole area, which is again a forgotten thing that most people forget about, the reflection of what it's like from the family left behind. That they've got to go to bed every night thinking, am I going to have a phone call or knock on the door and say my son or daughter's is going to be another number in it, and it's that no one ever speaks about, but it's the people that are left behind that are going through almost in some way a psychological warfare, even though they're in the comfort of their home in America and their son's out or their daughter's out in the killing fields, but they're going through a daily psychological warfare because it's, as you said, it's still their son, their daughter. I always try to look at this analogy. I look at every human being, whether they're 78 or whether they're 18, and it's like they will want somebody's baby. They will want that little thing that somebody held in their arm, and that never escapes a parent. And that's what I'm fascinated that you tap upon, because I'm sure there must be. You must come across occasions where parents coming back and maybe they never wanted their child, son or daughter to go to the military. Then they come back and then there must be these whole arguments or suppressed arguments that must break out, like never you doing that again. And the person's going, hey, it's my free. So these things must come up on a daily basis for you, surely.
Well, they honestly they do. It's like life, you know. It's like going to college. You know, I have kids that come to me and say, you know, I don't really want to play sports, but I'm only been playing sports because my parents put me in sports. But that's not what I really wanted to do. And so now that came up of age, I'm not going to do it anymore. Same thing, you know. We really got to be mindful on what we're pushing off on our children and how we're expecting them to live out their life based on our desires. So, as far as the military, and you know, a lot of parents offer military to their children as a way out. You know, you will have a job, they're going to support you, they're going to take care of you. You can get your education, you can still get a college degree. So they sell it to the kids as if this is really what you should do to really get out my house and take care of yourself. And a lot of kids take that up on the offer, and then you know with the breakouts or you know the trauma that we have with other countries, you know, then it's a second thought, you know, I really want you in there, or you shouldn't be in there. But, you know, now the kids feel like, you know, this is my duty, this is my life. So exactly, but it goes both ways. We have to be mindful of what desires of ours that we are really and pushing on our children.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the things that you know that again is maybe not sort of spoken upon on on a daily basis. But as I was saying to you before we went live, I mean, yeah, there's always going to be a parade for people, and you know, like I'm saying, when they go through airports, they can be applauded. But hey, life goes on. I mean, what's that little parade moment's gone on? You've got the everyday life, and this is one of the unseen consequences of it. I don't think many people deal with because they don't see it in their day-to-day existence. They're going in their car, going to their jobs, and they don't see that these guys, you know, the men or the female, they're going into normal life. They've got to pay bills, got to pay rent, and they've still got all these scars in their mind and mental issues going on, but they still got things piling up on their life, and they're not, they're just put back into everyday society, which is hard enough anyway because they've gone from one just reality to suddenly going back into Georgia or LA, which is completely different. And like you said, for all the talk and like, this is why I think it's fascinating. I wanted to talk to you about because you deal a lot with this disconnect, and this is one of the things that, from an outside perspective, I looked across at the election over in the States, and it seems to be this great. Everybody's just pushing for more divides and more divides and more divides. And I think to get this connection going back on, we've got to realise that it's almost like I say with the military. We've all still lived day-to-day lives. Whatever you may feel, whether you're pro one candidate and against the other, we still got to go on and live our day-to-day lives, and we've still got to live that reality. And it's people like you that are focusing on that. So have you found? What have been your thoughts and your insights? Because on this. And I mention this because on the back of the election, you did see the millennials in general all running to the streets, all wanting to kick the powers of authority down. And I thought, oh, we go. This is a classic disconnect because for some reason their only outlet is to go and do this. Now that's
right.
We've got to find a way to solve this because it's ultimately not going to be doing anyone any good to smash a window. So
No.
I wondered if you had any sort of insights and thoughts on how has anything changed since the election in your perspective on just this general topic.
Well, no, not really. After Obama was elected, people was very upset, and they protest days and days, and they even stated that he's not my president. So then it's the same thing with Trump. People are protesting on, and it's a great divide. But at the same time, we still have to maintain. We're still going to have to follow his rules once he starts to lay them down, and it is what it is. So how do we really teach our children how to go ahead and even if you don't like what the outcome is, move forward, keep it moving. And then how do we, I just did a teleconference since the last time I seen you. I did a teleconference. It was on post-traumatic stress disorder and my family. And I was really wanted to talk about like basically what it looks like with children and how we mistake it and misdiagnose it. And we chalk it up for something else that it's totally not. And it's really the kids is really just trying to deal and cope with what they have been traumatized with. So we have to just be, really ready and open to talk to our children and talk to others and not talk at them and be really ready to listen and come with a solution that's the main thing. You know, a lot of times people always have something to say, but it's not a solution. So, you know, a lot of these things, when we look at social media, we see a bunch of posts, and all these posts are posting up this negative stuff, or this just happened and this just happened. Okay, so you're going to post that up, but what is your solution? What can you do to help prevent it in your neighborhood, on your street, in your city? And besides, post up these images that continue to trigger negative feelings. So always come with a solution, and that's basically how we can try and end the disconnection.
I completely concur with you, and I think not only is it a case of, and I think you've spoken upon two words there that are very much underused in today's society. The first one is being listened. How many
Mm-hmm.
times do you hear people just stop and listen? That art of listening is completely, I think, just disintegrated. And I think this, especially in this world, and it's related to what you're just speaking upon, because we do live in a, for whatever reason, this period in time we live in the Western world that we're basically speaking upon, everything's become very, very quick. You know, everything's reduced to 140 characters, get everything out, leave, you know, have your say in the moment. And I think it's something we spoke upon last time, but it's never more relevant to what you just spoke upon about listening. Is half the time about listening is not only the skill of audio listening to somebody else, but it's also, I think half that ties into, and I think part of the discipline, I'm sure, I'll see your thoughts on it, is some of the times people just have the discipline just to hold back and not just immediately express their thoughts in 140 characters, and learn that thing just to go, maybe I should to my heart a bit and just have a minute out and take 10 breaths, and then if I still feel that way after an hour, then I'll go and write it. But, you know, rather than that instant moment. And I think that's part of the listening skill.
Yeah, that is part of the listening skill. That is a part of the listening skill, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Because one of my, I think that, you know, the dualities of where we're going to go with Glendora, and this is why I think I'm fascinated to know your thoughts, because you're tapping with this idea of the millennials and that generation and us generation. And if you look back at history, you haven't got to be just, you know, just a little bit of reflection of history. You see that the idea of that disconnect has led to some very dark places in history, you know, where the youth decide, you know, that's it, the old people are the problem, let's wipe them all out, and they start a dystopia. And that's happened many, many times. So I don't, if you understand the sort of the fourth generational sort of cycle that, you know, we always go, and maybe we're at that fourth generational cycle, I don't want to, and I think we both agree, none of us want to go into that dystopia world where we're just divided along those lines. But equally, to do that, we need solutions. And and I think the key to that is that how do we highlight, how do we reward, how do we make the people who are coming up with solutions those people that are kind of idolized? So instead of having Beyonce being the one that everyone idolizes, let's have a female engineer. Let's have a young kid who is a coder. How can we do that? Because that's something we can do on a, you know, the media are never going to do that. You know, you're not going to get they're not going to focus on that. But that's something, like as you said, we can do on a human to human level, and then we can spread that out to our community. So I think it's finding ways where we can highlight the people who are coming up with solutions. But I mean, it's what steps we can do towards that. So I'll tell you your thoughts.
Well, you hit it on there when you said we need to highlight people that are influential, that's really trying to uplift people. You know, that's one of the things that I really try and get the kids to understand when they come into the office and they say, well, you know, I want to be a rapper. I want to rap, and they don't want to play sports anymore or something like that. And I try to make them understand that what are you rapping about? What are you really influencing? Who are you influencing? You know, how can you, what's the whole point of what you're doing, and not just talking out of the side of your head. So, you know, and I try to get them to think about that, because, you know, you can really influence and impact the masses, just like Beyonce. You know, people are going to come to you no matter what. So you want to make sure that when they're coming, that you're filling their spirit with positivity, and you're not just coming up with negative stuff and it don't lead them to anywhere, you know. And so, and then, you know, we look at people like Beyonce and Jay-Z and, you know, other celebrities, and we want them to do more. We want them to do more. And then that sometimes they do so much already. So when is it really enough? When should we get up off of them? You know, so many people say, I don't want to be a role model. And the reality is, as long as you're alive, you're going to be a role model, period, to somebody. So, we like you said, we have to have a different type of way that we look at the people that honestly is not doing the most far as teaching us negative stuff and putting out negative stuff, or just putting out stuff that really satisfies their own personal needs. Or figure out how we can get them to be more involved to try and help us spread the word on how we're impacting our children and how we're impacting our families. And that's why I named that book, Leaving Legacies, Breaking the Disconnect Between Parents and Millennials, because millennials right now are 34 years old, 34 to down to probably about 18. But a lot of millennials are honestly living in the home with their parents, and they actually are working, but they're not honestly paying no bills that are really going to help them be substantial in life. Their parents are still paying those bills. So with that being said, how do we get them out on their own, out of the house and on their own without them falling behind some negativity when we already on basically catered them? So it's really how we look at who they're following and how we're talking to them and making sure that we are trying to incorporate somebody that can speak positive, that they can favor, like they favor Beyonce. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was just saying, I totally concur with you.
Oh,
Glenda.
okay.
I think this is the one of the things that where I always scream out, and I think it's more relevant every day I live, that never before as we as a species have we got the tools in our hands to shape these. We don't need this. We never before do we. We don't need to have to be Beyonce's as the role models. We can highlight these people, and that's why I think it's really. That's what I try to think. I mean, I look at it, and that's what I'm saying. It's this fascination I have that, I maybe not that, I'm not of that millennial generation. I look back and think, I think if I was 30, if I was in that age group now, I would be so optimistic, and I'd be like, wow, I can shape the new world, and I've got tools because, I'm old enough to say. So I remember what I felt like when I was in that age bracket. Like, you had almost that immortality feel, because you were like, yes, I'm you're in that stage of life, and it's like you had that whole thing of like, yes, messianic thing about I want to change the world, and it was different. This is one of the things I think really where the connection between the open conversations and listening comes in, because people from our generation can say back, like, hey, I was no different from you, but you've got the tools like never before. You can go and build networks. You can bypass all these people. You haven't got to go and shake your booty to go and please a record company. You don't have to do that anymore. You can be as strong and powerful and stand up, and you don't have to stand up. And this is the whole thing about, like, I think you tapped upon it really right as well, because I talk to a lot of musicians, and I'm going, okay, so you talk about a lot of the cliche stuff that what people want to talk about in that whole genre, and I think, well, what are you leaving behind? What in 10 years time, when in 10 years time you look at that, you're going to go, oh, maybe I should have spoken about how you can possibly, like you said. And that's in the again where we can shape those people, because I think these people, they're only following. It's like all of humanity. We just follow the herd. We like to go where the virtue is. And if it's you're going to be rewarded for putting out booty videos, or hey, bling bling bling, or hey, let's go and shoot out of everybody around us, hey, then you're going to follow that crowd, because ultimately, as you said, that person in that body at 25 or whether you're 40, they're just looking for. Ultimately, I think this is where we can concur. They're all just looking for a means to stand on their own 2 feet. Even that kid is at home at 34. He might sit in his basement and write some dark lyrics about this, but he's just wanting, hey, I want to make a millionaire so I can get out of my mum's basement. I mean, that is the ultimate truth. But we've got to find a way, and this is what I said never before, because we can, and I think the way we can do it is basically what we as individuals can do to reward those people, and instead of leaving it to corporations and all those people, say, well, okay, I know there's a little kid down the street, and they're really into computing, but maybe they don't have a video player. If they could just have a little cheap video player, it would help them immensely. Or I know someone down the street, she's really good at sewing, but she's got a really or whatever, and she just needs a machine. Okay, we'll go and give her a machine. We've all got shit in our lives, for want of a better word, that we
Yeah,
could
we do.
that we could give to other people to help. And those little gifts, like I've got, an old laptop hanging around. I don't like it because it's old and it's a bit slow. But to some kid down the road, that may be the thing that's going to set them off to be the next entrepreneur. And that's something.
Uh,
That's what I'm trying to say. That's something we can all do instead of like trying to work out and sit on our chairs and philosophize about how we can change the world. That's small little incremental steps we can all make. We can encourage, we can inspire, we can go and
right.
let those, if nothing else, and this is a free act, go and give those people some time. Go and listen to that 8-year-old and say, okay, why are you so obsessed with that whole project? What are you trying to find out? Why are you exploring trees so much? Or why are you, and then they feel listened to. And it's amazing what happens when you just listen to people. They express themselves and then out blooms this potential of a human being. And I think that's something you speak upon.
Yeah, and because it's true. What you're saying is absolutely true. We all go through different things, and so nobody's stuff is greater than the other. But it's really how we look at it and what we and how we perceive it. And because if no matter what the negative thing that we go through, there's always a positive. One of the things that I love to say is that we have one life, one. So we must live, not just exist. Don't get it twisted. Don't get stuck in life mess, but get the message. Get the message and keep it moving. I love to say that because so many people get stuck. They get stuck on feelings of anger, just negativity, and then they really just don't move forward. And that really is what holds them back and holds their family back. Because what happens is the kids pick up on it. And once the kids pick up on it, now they're feeling like, okay, well, this is normal. This is the way to go. This is what it is. And honestly, they really start to see that it's not when they actually leave the parent, when they're in school, and they're doing their own thing, or when they at church doing their own thing, or in the community doing their own thing, and then they started really acting out. They're acting out what they're used to, what is normal in their home. But now it's embarrassing. Now it's, just too much. Why won't you stop? But really, this is what they've been taught to be comfortable with. So,
Yep.
you're right. When one man's trash is another man's treasure. You're right. What we think is maybe, is trash now, or it's just not enough because we can do better. It is somebody that's sitting around like, man, if I just had an opportunity. And these kids today are so entitled. They feel like they're so entitled, and the problem with that is that they're not. They're absolutely is not entitled to anything. But the fast pace of social media and technology, they feel like, I just got it's mine. I'm supposed to have it, and you're supposed to make it happen, which is not reality.
Yeah, well, I think we something I spoke upon this all the time, and hey, I mean, let's be real about this, Glendora. We're fortunate enough that we're having this conversation, and we live in two parts of the world where this is a reality to us. Whereas on this rock right now, I would say 5, 6 of the people on this planet, 90% of them are living in absolute squalor, and they don't have this the self contentment stuff because they know the real life. So that's one of the things I always want to reflect to people, that you haven't got to sort of look, when everyone feels entitled, I always say, well, you really need to right now just go and Google search. Go and Google search Congo, or go and Google search Thailand, or go and Google search sex slaves, or whatever it may be. And you'll find out that you're lucky you can even have the internet to sit and search this. And that's a choice. This is one thing. And I think the other thing where you go full loop on this is because unless people are stepping in, and this is the individual thing we can all do. We can all step in at a one-to-one level, because as you said, if not, it becomes just a cycle. It becomes like, like you say, what if you don't break this cycle? It goes on and on, and every time that cycle gets worse and worse and worse, and it's almost like a descent into a ring of hell. And before you know it, 4 or 5 generations down the line, and this should never be. And this is one of the things that's always sort of frustrated me completely. Is like, man, the only way we're ever going to break the institutional from a top above a thing is for us all to realize, which we all understand anyway, and then it's like the old one of like you should see back in. I mean, I talk about rappers. This is why I want to tie this in. many rappers in the 90s were talking about this and saying, look, hey, don't highlight the yo bitch mentality. Don't go on to that. And there's bigger things to talk about. But those people weren't highlighted. Whereas now we can, because there's those people, as I said, have got the channels and the means to get it out. And this is what I said about spending time with people, because I think at the core of it, this is where you're really dealing with it. It comes down to the children, man, and a lot of it just comes down to just listen to your kids and find out what's frustrating them, because ultimately, let's be real about it, the frustrations they feel are only looking at the same, they're watching the same TV, they're saying the same crap as we are, but they've got child brains. And I know we want to live in a world where you get to 12 and they all think they're adults, but they're not. They're their brains are still developing, and they're seeing all this reality that's seeped into them from every angle, and they've got these child minds. And if we're not listening to them as adults, we wonder why they see the world and they get angry and they want to kick off. That takes a bit of listening and explain, like you spoke about last time. But that's something that, again, goes back to the thing. That's something we can all do on an individual level. But how many people are doing that? So how do you make it? How do you make on a day-to-day level the parents do that? And I think a lot of that is things you were speaking about last time. And I know it was rushed last time. But what would you be say? Someone may be listening now. What would be your top 3 advice to a parent who's got a child right now, and what the most practical steps they can take on how to break this disconnect, and we'll make sure if there isn't a disconnect, it doesn't happen in the future?
Okay, so the question is, what would be my top free advice for a family that's dealing with a child and you feel like there's a disconnect within the family relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my top advice that's free is 3 things. And you can go to Glendora.solutions anytime, and you can look on there because I tell you about it. I call it the process. Okay, and so what it is the first thing I want parents to do is educate yourself. You have to educate yourself on today's time. You have to understand technology. You have to put down the flip phone. A lot of grandparents are raising grandchildren and they still want to carry the flip phone. You have to let the flip phone go. So you have to educate yourself on how the new phones, the touch screens, actually work. You have to educate yourself on the new lingo, how these kids are talking. You must understand how these kids are talking. Now, you don't have to be able to write a paper on it. They probably can't either. But you need to understand the main concept, the underlying words, the most popular terms. You need to understand those. So you have to embrace education in relation to what's going on with the times, the social movement. So I want you to be mindful about how the kids are dressing. I want you to be mindful about the culture. I want you to educate yourself about your child's school. How many of them are, where do your child fit in the class culture? Is how many are African American? How many are Hispanic? How many are white? Understand where your child fit in so you can have a better opportunity to talk to your child about their day. You can make it really sensible and knowledgeable, but you can't do that if you don't educate yourself about really what's going on at the school. I need you to educate yourself about what your child's favorite teacher is. Who is that? What is the teacher that your child really don't care for? I need you to educate yourself like that. I need you to educate yourself on who is your child's friends, who get on your child's nerves. I need you to know these people's name. It is very important that when you see your child, you say, well, how was Johnny today? Did he get on your nerves today? Did Sarah, was she talking too much today? That you talk to your child like that so you can get your child to talk back to you instead of just saying one word like, it was fine, okay. So I need you to educate yourself. That's the first thing I want you to do is honestly embrace what's going on right now. I want you to get rid of that thought process of, oh, I'm old school. This is old school. Get rid of that and embrace what's going on right now by educating yourself, reading a book, somebody like my book. Read a book that's talking about what's going on with the times. If the book got millennials in it, read it. If it has millennials in it, read it. If it has anything that's was not in your generation, read it. because you have to educate yourself in order to have a better language to talk to your child. Your child don't understand Frankie Beverly and Maze. They don't. Not unless we get Ludacris to come and do a cut in it, really. So the second thing that I had really tried to get parents to see and understand is for them to basically embrace mental clarity. I want them to really understand that they're in a realm of personal development. You are growing. You are growing as a parent, just as we see our children sprout up, as we see our children go through their pants get shorter, their feet is longer. I need parents to really recognize that you're growing too. You're growing too. You're growing as a parent. So that means that you're going to change some things that you might not have done 5 years from now or 5 years ago. You're going to address your child a different way that you might have addressed them 2 years ago. And it's okay. It's okay that you're not as aggressive now, that you answer them slower now. It's okay. You're changing too. You're growing too. And a lot of parents don't recognize and acknowledge that they're growing. They don't want to they want to say, well, I'm grown. I'm grown, and I'm gonna do what I said I'm gonna do. It is what it is, and ain't nobody gonna check me. Who gonna stop me? That's what parents, they get into that mentality. Well, I'm grown. I'm the parent. Who gonna tell me what to do? You can't be in that mentality these days. That is a straight disconnect between you and your child. Your child don't want to hear about you grown. They know you grown. They know you making the rules. But you still have to realize that as you are growing. So it's more stuff that you're going to need to learn. And honestly, the child is going to lead you. They're going to teach you what you need to know. They're going to let you know it's time you got to, hey, mommy need to figure out what the social app is so you can grow with them. Okay. And the last thing that I really try and get parents to do is really seek out resources. And when I say seek out resources, I really try and harp on professional resources. Somebody like myself, a licensed professional counselor. Seek out somebody professional. A lot of parents run to social media, to their Facebook page. A lot of parents call their mama. They call their uncle. They call their father. And they call their cousin. And then they're being told what's going on in their house with their child to everybody in the family. And that increases a disconnect. Children come in to the counseling agency all the time saying, I wish they would stop telling, excuse that phone, you guys. I wish they would stop telling my mama. I wish my mama would stop telling my grandmama. I wish my mama didn't tell my cousin. I wish my mama didn't tell her sister, my auntie, because my auntie told my uncle. So what happens is now the kid really don't want to trust the parent anymore. They don't want to talk to the parent because the parent didn't go tell the professional. They told everybody in the family who all told everybody in the family. So it's now everybody got 2 cents and nobody got really professional advice to help that kid work through it. Now it's a lot of and a lot of more negative commenting and not really helping. And that, again, is another issue with the whole disconnection. So the main things that I try and educate parents on and teach them on how to actually end disconnection in their home and regain unity of their family is, for one, for them to educate themselves. For two, for them to honestly be mindful that they are growing as well. And it's quite all right that they start making changes in their life. And the third one is to seek professional resources and stop telling everybody that you are cool with. That's just in your family. It don't work like that these days. That worked when I was growing up. When I was growing up, it was okay for me to do something, and my dad called his mom and told my grandma, who told my auntie, because my auntie lived with my grandma, who told my uncle, who stayed across the road from her. That was fine back then. We didn't have the cell phones then. We didn't have that instant connection to all these other people back then. So that was fine back then. But today, these kids can't take that. They don't want that. They don't want their family knowing all of what's going on. They want to be able to tell their family on their own. They want to be able to tell their family with the parent, but they don't, or they really don't want the family to be told, because what difference does that make? So that's one of the main pet peeves that I really be trying to get the parents to understand, that you got to fall back. You got to fall back and not tell what's really going on in your house to extended family members. That breaks your family unity. That puts the disconnection in your legacy. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much there I want to sort of speak to you upon, but I think the first one I really want to linger on there, Glenda, and I think this is the key of it, because in an optimal world, we don't need people like you. In an optimal world, we haven't got disconnected kids. We've got kids who never get to that point. So the really starting point of it is education, and that's the real point of it, because then you don't have that need to go to someone like you when it, you know, if we don't have to someone like you who's dealing with putting plasters on. No, let's solve the underlying issue, and that stems down to parents being educated. Now, I wanted to little sub note on that. I wanted to ask you about now. I think it's really relevant to the times we live in. What would be your advice to general people who, when they want to go and educate, and you generally find this, that people, they will go and educate themselves, but they will go to echo chambers, and they will go to material that they will like, that will support their concept. So I think one of the things that always is key to education is to find material that's conflicting what you like, and see, and then you'll find, because I think if you go and read the most conflicting idea that you may have, you're going to reinforce one or two things. You're going to think, okay, it's going to shape my world, or it's actually, no, that reinforces what I've always thought. So I think it's always good to sort of go and have a balance. But what would be your advice to people, particularly in the culture we live in now, where people are straight away, they will go on the internet or they go to resources, and they will just go only to what they want to hear. And that can be a bad trait to go down, because if you go down that road, you can just basically just reinforce and you never really kind of break yourself free as an adult from it, because you're just basically finding people who prep up your argument and going, see, I was right all the way along. And so what would be your advice to to someone who, on that, if you confronted a parent that say was like, oh, no, and I'm educating myself, but then you kind of saw they were always reading the same thing and always sort of hearing the same thing, what would your advice to those people be?
Well, so my advice to a parent that really want to just go ahead and educate themselves, and feel like they kind of like know the answers or know where to go. What I try and do is really try and, like you're saying, because it really is it's like the rich people who have all these people around them. They have all these yes people. So no matter what they say, no matter what they do, they're gonna hear yes. They can look crazy as all get out, but if they turn around and say, "Do I look fine?" the first thing the person gonna do is say yes. So what I would try and tell that person, which honestly never gives them the true answer that they really need in order to be the greatest that they can be, because they don't really have real people around them. So for parents who really feel like they know the way and they know what's really going on, and they really find ways to educate themselves and don't feel like they need professional help, or they don't need help from nobody to raise their kids and all of that, I let them be where they at, because in the end, the child will tell you, it's gonna become evident in the behavior, and that's how. And so I don't fight no one who really is trying to stick to their grounds on what they believe and what they know, because the reality is that's what that parent know, that's what that parent believes, but that child is an individual. And that child is going to be making decisions on their own. And that child is not going to be following the path of that parent, because that child is an individual. And they're not going to always be up under that parent. And then that's when that parent will see it's another way. It's another way. And as long as that child don't have dirt on top of them and not in a grave, it might be a possibility to actually reconnect them. And so it takes sometimes for extreme things to happen in order for a parent to hear that, it is a different way that you can approach this. It is a different way that you should try this. But again, and I would even try, like I had a lady who had a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old, and the 16-year-old really had a lot of issues with her, basically her hostility, her personality, towards other people, and she was rude and quite disrespectful. But the issue was, that I soon discovered, like what the mom was doing was whatever she buy or allow the 18-year-old to do, she would pretty much allow the 16-year-old to do it as well. Well, what that did was put the 16-year-old in a mindset that she is 18 and she can do what the 18-year-old do. And no matter, what I was trying to tell the parent was still trying to say, well, they my girls. They my girls. They my girls. And, they both my girls. It ain't that too much different in age. So it wasn't too much more for me to tell her because she didn't get it. And so I have to basically back off, and I tried to explain to her. I said, listen, when you go out and you go to CVS and you want to buy some Carmex. So Carmex was coming out as some lip chap. And now it came out and it was like a little fancy tube, and then they come out in their little regular tube. So the little fancy tube, one was like a little rainbow colored, and the other one looked like a leopard skin. So I said, well, you know what? The leopard skin would be the one that you would give the 18-year-old, and you would give the rainbow one to the 16-year-old, because the 16-year-old shouldn't be running around with no leopard anyway. So it's a way that you can try and separate it where they still can be your girls, but you keep them at their age, that at their age level, and to help her understand where she's at, and not that she's as old as the other one. But again, she really was feeling like, well, those my girls, that's my girls. Well, it wasn't until the 16-year-old got caught up on probation and then was mandated to have to come to counseling, where she was like, okay, now what was you saying about how to try and help her remember her age? Yeah, you try and help her because she understand her place, then she can do better. You putting too much stuff on her. So, when we have these people that really don't want to listen, you got to let them go, because that's not the one that you need to talk to at that time. It is other parents out there that seriously want to help. There's other caregivers that seriously want to help. So when I come across somebody that is resistant, I let them go, because I don't have time for it, and it's a waste of time, because it's like you're talking to a negative wall that has no opening for positivity. So you have to wait till you get till that person decides that, you know what, I am in a position of personal growth. I can grow as well. I can go ahead and allow myself to understand that, you know what, she is 16. Maybe she should not have the Angela Davis afro. Maybe she shouldn't have that. Maybe she should wear straight hair, or something that helps her stay looking 16. But it usually take when the law get involved, when the rights are taken out of the parent's hand or jeopardized to come out of the parent's hand, before they say, hey, wait a minute, let me turn around and what else can I do? What can I do now? But again, the bottom line is that a parent has to be consistent no matter what, because you can wait till the law get involved and then say, let me do what I can do to help you. But again, I can only do this when the law is watching. As soon as they stop watching, I'm out of here. So the parent has to be consistent in the end.
Yeah, and I think this goes back down to, maybe the theme what we've been talking about, because a fundamental base on the very bottom of it, it comes down to one word, and it's the universal word of love. And if you bring a child into this world, you know what I mean, and I can understand, and I'm not, hey, life's life, and you can be, whatever circumstances, have a child put into your life or whatever, but the ultimate of it, if we can just break that disconnect to every parent to understand, or just the community to understand, that these little kids that we're bringing into the world, they're the most precious thing that we've got as a species. They've got the potential to save the world. They've got the potential to destroy the world, and they're in our care. And if you love these people, that's what I'm saying. So you don't have to go get to the need. I always think this, and maybe it's the way I approach my thinking of things. But instead of if I had a daughter and she's turning around at 16, I'm trying to tell her what hairstyle or whatever. But it'll be like, no, I want my daughter to think you're the emperor of the world. Some man is going to have to really beg and get you're not a princess. You're the queen. You're the queen of whatever. You're the queen of Scotland. And that's what if you give this. Feel that human being, and that comes from what we just talked about, from listening, because half of it is you haven't got to blow your kids up with conceit, because you see that around the world, and then you get these kids who just think they're destined for falling, because the real world, the reality is you are going to destined to lose. But the true thing of that loving your kid and making them feel what they are doesn't come from just blowing them up from conceit. In fact, far from it. It takes, as you discussed from the very first time we spoke on this conversation, first time in the podcast, was like sitting down and listening to your kids and hearing what they want to hear. And when they've got the confidence to do that, then they feel, I can go and tell whoever it is. I can go and tell my mum that I've got this issue, and then it's not only issues, it becomes like I've got this. I had this really good idea about why did. But whatever it may be, and then you start to see this flowering, and then before you know it, you don't worry about when they're 16 and 18 about what lipstick they're wearing, because these are the people who are going to be going off and fulfilling their human potential to the fullest, rather than worrying about what some boy in the 6th grade or the jock at the local football team thinks about them. That's intrinsic to make, which we can all do, and it doesn't. That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't cost a penny, and we can all do that. And I think it's negating our responsibility as adults, whether it's our kids or other kids, not just have that little time of just listening and appreciating what they are. These are little, like I said before, these tiny brains forming in these heads. And I know we want to live in this culture, and I think that's one of the things we can all do, is we can all understand that a kid of 15, I know they think they're adults, but they're not. And when they're 24, they're not kids. But in that, do you know what I mean? But at 15, they want to think they're adults. And I know we've got this whole culture that says, a girl, leaves. I mean, over here we have kids leaving primary school, which is going to high school at 12, and they're in proms. And I'm like, hey, come on, they're kids. Don't make them into adults yet. We and that's something that we can do. We can, and okay, we can't stop, as I said before. You can't stop the corporations or whatever it may be from flooding these adverts onto your child. But you can say to them, hey, do you know what? You alone and that's something you can do on an individual level, regardless of what goes on around you. And that doesn't cost a penny. And it just takes a little bit of time, which goes back to what we're saying, listening. But that's a hard one, because people don't want to listen, because they don't want to have the time, because they've got their own selfish needs, and they'd rather sit down and bundle them in front of a TV, put them some food on, and let them do what they want. And that is that laziness. That I think is at the heart of the disconnect.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I said that you have to be consistent, because that's what it is. And that's what it gets you every time. I'm too tired today. I don't want to do it today. I'm not going to do it today. That'll get you every time. And that gets a lot of parents. It does. Mm-hmm.
Now, Glendora, before we sort of finish this off, and it was something I wanted to speak to you last time, and I'm not going to let this conversation go again, because I think I want to speak to you about this. And it's something I briefly kind of know. I wanted to talk about networking, because I know it's something I know one of your great passions. You talk about the power of like just connecting people, particularly you talk about in the Black community and stuff like that. So again, just tell me about that. And again, I mean, just gives me an insight into that, and what you sort of you sort of feel about the steps that we can all take to make this happen. Because again, it's going to come from individuals. We don't want this coming from the top down. We need this coming from individual to individual. So we need people like you to sort of what advice would you give?
As far as networking.
Mm-hmm. And just again, please just give an insight into your general, because I know you're part of this Black, particularly is it female networking community, and I wish you sort of tell us a bit more about that, because the people who want won't know about it. So again, highlight that and tell us an insight about what it's about.
Well, what I am a part of is a couple communities, and one of them is called Black Bizscope, and that's on Periscope. And that platform is where they built the platform where you can honestly see a whole bunch of African American business owners and actually get their products. So you can actually products and services. And so that's one of the things. And then the other one that I'm involved in is called Authors in Business, and that was also created by African American female, and her name is Desiree Lee, and then dleeinspires.com is her website. But on there, she teaches you how to actually self-publish your book, and she give you tools on how to honestly sell your book. So her community really helps you sell your book. And the biggest thing about that is that one of the things that I'm really like passionate about is speaking your life on purpose. And that goes right along with leaving your legacy, because we do so many things and we take care of so many other people, and we kind of like forget about ourselves as individuals, and so we don't really be mindful of what we say after we say the words I am, I can, I will. And we really don't really take honor and gratitude. It's been really known for the past week due to Thanksgiving, but come 3 weeks before that, wasn't nobody really talking about being grateful. So now, when you everybody has a story, and just like you're sitting here and you have these podcasts every week, you have a story, people have a story, and so like I say, life is people, so it's stories out there. And so with that being said, everybody can teach somebody something. So it's like the Authors in Business is an awesome community for anybody, any regular person, because it don't take $1 million. It don't take really nothing for you to honestly write your book and publish it yourself. So that community is another one that I'm really that I'm really involved and active in. And what I'm trying to do is find opportunities to help other people really just live their life purposefully. One of my challenges that I gave out when January got here, and February I sung this challenge too, and I kept challenging people to really, before December get here, do something for you, do something that's going to be a great goal, a milestone that you accomplish. And so when December 25th get here, you just don't celebrate Christmas, you also celebrate yourself. You celebrate closing this year off with some amazing things. Do you know how many recordings you did this year?
No.
No, you need to count them up. You really need to count them up, because you need to celebrate that number. You really
Mhm.
need to track that number and celebrate that number. You touched a lot of lives this year. Every time that you scheduled an appointment and showed up, you showed out. You helped people change their thought processes. You help them go to their next level. You have done a lot. So you need to really see how many times that you actually came on, got you a great taping, and have that number, so you can say, you know what, I did this number this year. What number I'm going to do next year? How I'm going to take it higher? Because this is a great thing. This is something for you to celebrate December 25th. It really is. A lot of people don't get the courage to put themselves out
Mhm.
here and honestly say, reach out to people and say, you know what, come talk to me. And they don't do that. They're too afraid of being judged. They're too afraid of speaking wrong. They're too afraid of not being heard or taken seriously. They're too afraid. So for you to do this is a really awesome, and you are really helping people advance in their life. You cannot see them, you may not hear them, but people see you, and they are.
Well, do you know,
So,
this is why I wanted to sort of throw this back to you. Like, I'll come back to my second point in a minute. But do you know, one of the things, uh, doing what I do, Glendora, I mean, it's the same sort of thing. But when you do, as you just spoken about, when you do speak to one of the things, one of my, I would say, for want of a better word, frustrations is that I speak to so many people. We're all on the same page, but I use this quite regularly. It's like herding cats, because I think if we could only connect 10% of the people that I've had on this podcast, we could
mhm,
literally shake this world to the core. But it's
mhm.
get over that step? How do you get over the step of connecting people who are all on the same page? We all think the same thing. We're all want the same objective, but for some reason we come to a point when we all agree, and then we just scatter like cats. And then to get us all back onto a working model or something, it's really hard to do, which is great because I want us all to be individual human beings. So it's how do you? That's one of the ones I spend a lot of time contemplating. How do we make it easier to connect these people that, especially people, as you said, who have put their head above the parapet, the ones that are producing, the ones that are, the vanguard of this something. How do you get those people to connect? And I know it's something you're interested in, and that's why I was asking you whether you had any insights about how, because it must be something that you come across. But how do we connect us all in a way that we can actually do something productive, rather than just sitting here and I'm talking to you in a year's time and it's like we're just having the same conversation and nothing's being achieved? Because, as you said, we need to build solutions, and for that to happen, we need not only to connect, but we need to collaborate. So that's something I spend a lot of time contemplating.
Well, one of the ways that how we connect our net worth, because that's what our network is our net worth. So how do we connect that is, honestly, we continue to be consistent with each other. So we continue to be accountable with each other. And then we continue to collaborate with each other. So just like we're doing now, I need to have it where I'm going to get this Periscope producer set up so I can have you come on. You can come on there. I need to also introduce you to this man named Keith Jowers. He runs a show, and it's called Straight Talk. And he's on Periscope, and his handle is Dads for Life. And but that's what he do. He every Monday night he's running another interview. He's trying to connect and build his people, his network around too. So I need to connect you with him, because you need to go on his show. Yeah, I need to connect. He need to be on your show. And and that's how we do it. And then what we can have our own teleconference, and we can have it where we are going to provide solutions. So you can provide solutions on how to honestly go ahead and do podcasts. You can show somebody how to honestly do podcasts in your teleconference, or how to honestly reach out to people and really get people to respond. That's something that you can be able to teach, and this is all part of how we're teaching them how to network together, how we're teaching them how to solve solutions, how we're teaching them how to leave a legacy, how we're teaching them how to just continue to move in positivity. That's really what we can do to keep our network together. But the problem is we can't get discouraged. We can't get discouraged because we are the visionaries.
Exactly, Glendora. Like, you hit something upon the element, and I think this is the key element of what you just spoken upon. The way that we don't get discouraged with each other, and it is the element of what you talk about, being the visionaries or the creators. Is that very true? We've got to be true with each other. And as long as we're true with each other, as long as we're honest, we can all know we've all got each other's backs. And that's all we can ask for. That's all I can ask for any human being that I come in contact with. Just be honest with me, and just know that I know that we've got each other's backs, because ultimately we have that. This is the reality. Now, I want to throw back to you. You mentioned about the Christmas challenge. Okay, my Christmas challenge to you, Glendora, is by Christmas Day, I want to be having a text off you or a photograph or something where you got yourself a nice little Bitcoin, wallet, and I can send you some Bitcoin, man, because that's going to be one step that you can put down as a milestone that, this Christmas 2016, you had a Bitcoin wallet ID, and then the next year you can look back and go, oh, that's when I did it. So that's my challenge to you.
Okay, it's a big claim.
But Bitcoin, if you get a Bitcoin wallet, we spoke about this last time.
Yes, we did. So
I need you. So I need you by December 25th to get yourself a wallet, and then I can send you some Bitcoin. Yeah. Yes.
All right. So definitely, let's try and have a conversation about that soon. Soon. I do mean soon. More so towards the end of this week, because I do want to invest in that and see what really that's about. So I do wanted to talk more to you about that.
Well, the reason I was saying this, Glenda, because I think it's something you spoke upon, really. It's like you just said, it's one of those challenges you can do. And this is a great thing. It's a very simple thing to do. It's just getting yourself a simple click and thing. And this is when you'll realize how easy it is. I'm not asking you to deprogram a whole coding thing. It's just a literal follow a link, click it in, just like it is personal banking. You know what I mean? But I want it to be a challenge that you have, because you mentioned about putting a challenge up for Christmas. That's great. That's something I want you to do, and think, okay, so by Christmas Day I can text you and say, oh, and you're like, yeah, I've got this. This is my wallet, and then we can take it forward, and we know it's an objective. So I throw that challenge across to you as one human being to another. Christmas Day, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I love a challenge.
Perfect. Well, before we do go, Glendora, I mean, you mentioned again. I wanted to, before you reach out, I wanted to tell people where they can reach out, and again, on the writers, particularly the writers circle and stuff, because you mentioned those two as well. And so, tell us all the outlets where people can reach out, where they can get involved in any of these projects you spoke about.
Okay, so you can contact me at glendora.solutions, glendora.solutions, and that'll take you straight to my website, where you can see that process that I was talking about, on how if you have an actual disconnection going on in your family right now, this is a major way that you can actually get it to stop. Okay, so you can see that process on glendora.solutions. Also, if you have a book in your belly, if you have a story that you want to tell, if you want to become an author, put author behind your name, you can do that in 24 hours or less, rolling with me and this crew. And honestly, today, because it's Cyber Monday, you get $50 off the class. So the class will only cost you $200, and within the community that we have, you can honestly get that $200 back before your book is actually done in that 90 days, because that's only 20 people buying your book for $10, and your book ain't even done. It's still in the 90-day waiting time for you to actually print it out and push it to everybody. But that's the kind of community that I'm rolling with. So you'll go to dleeinspires.com, ebook sessions, click I'm ready, and use I'm ready as your promo code to get that $50 off, and you have until midnight tonight. And finally, I just want to throw out there, if you guys are on Facebook, I created a group. It's called Peaceful Parent Strategies, Peaceful Parent Strategies, Peaceful Parent Strategies. That Facebook group is really a group of resources for the parent. Really, it is. So I encourage you to really join that group. It's a closed group because we are seriously talking about how we can parent peacefully. And so I, use that, and because it's free. And so, but it's full of valuable information. All right.
Well, that's perfect. Well, that's excellent. Well, before we do go, Glenda, it's been again. Thank you for giving me your time, because again, and I know again, I'm going to be left now with many questions and inspired thoughts, which is great. So I love about talking to you so much, because it's I'm just fired up. My mind goes into overdrive and thinking of ideas and solutions. So that's the very essence of life is people, to be inspired by people. So I want to thank you for that. So just before we do go, I just wanted to, maybe if you could just wrap up in, maybe a paragraph. What would be the one thing you want people to take away from this whole sort of conversation tonight?
The main thing that I want people to take away from this conversation is the reality that you are in control of your legacy right now. I really want you to be mindful of what you're doing and how you're doing it, especially when it comes to our next generation, our children. Please go ahead and educate yourself on social media. Please educate yourself on technology. Please allow yourself to grow personally. Allow yourself to grow as a parent. Allow yourself to grow as an individual. And please seek professional resources. Even on your phone, when you're on your phone and you're screaming through Facebook, look for a group like mine, Peaceful Parent Strategies, where you can honestly get some real resources that can actually give you answers to some questions or strategies that you've been using that may not have been working. So don't just use your phone for entertainment purposes when you're on Facebook, but look for some resources to help you parent peacefully, that is. So I just want to remind everybody, we got one life, so live, don't just exist.
Well, I couldn't think of any better way to sort of sum that out. That's a perfect way of doing it. Well, all I will say is from me over here in Scotland and all the way over there in Georgia, I just want to say life is people.
Life is